Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Matthew. Once again, we are continuing on with round two of the AWA Remco tournament. So today is Saturday, the 23rd of September. This is actually video number two for today. Earlier this morning, I filmed the first video, which was round two, part two. And I mentioned in that video that I was expecting a delivery today. And as it turns out, during the process of me filming that video, my package was delivered in the mailbox. So I wanted to come back down here, not only film another video to get the tournament in, but I also wanted to talk about this next XOX Customs figure that just came out. Now, anybody that's seen the previous XOX Customs action figure, the Ivan Putski LJN Custom. Now, normally I don't leave a lot of comments on a lot of channels, and as we know, a New Age Revolution always talks about the figures. He gets his free batch of figures in, and he advertises for random treasures. And in the remarks column, I kind of talked about how I didn't like the figure, gave it a 2 out of 10. To be honest, I guess Antoinette saw that message, and she was offended, and which I understand, but it just wasn't a quality figure. And I thought I was being really generous when I gave it a 2 out of 10. I mean, based on pose and everything, and the rubber, 0 out of 10 would have been more realistic for most people. And you could tell it hasn't sold very well. So, I wasn't off. So, Antoinette, she kind of asked me, hey, what kind of figures would I be looking for? And you guys know me. I'm probably the biggest XOX Customs customer. So, and I haven't really purchased a lot from them this year because their figures just are just too expensive for low quality. And I kind of gave some examples of certain characters that I really like. Their poses and whatnot. Guys like Ultimate Warrior, Big John Studd, and Greg Valentine. To name a few. And so, when this new action figure came out, I kind of want to take take responsibility for this new awesome figure that just came out. Now, they did go ahead and use the Greg Valentine pose. Now, it's the mirror version, but it's still, a great looking figure overall. And it is, what was his name? Taylor or something? I don't know. Red Rooster. Terry Taylor, I believe his name was. Now, like I said, you kind of look at some of the figures that have been coming out in 2023. I've just not been a big fan of. Very few figures I've actually purchased from Random Treasures this year. And, guys like Abdullah the Butcher, I thought was a necessity. Virgil, maybe a 5 out of 10 figure. It would have been a lot higher if it wasn't for the terrible pose, which is basically just another Rick Rude Series 6 LJN figure type. So it looks like Dusty Rhodes and Jerry Lawler are really the only two figures I acquired because they were worth it. And this Red Rooster figure is well worth it. So there are certain things about the figure, and yes, I know this is a Remco tournament video, but I just want to talk about this for a few minutes because this is actually something I'm actually proud of that they've actually purchased or actually made. So some of the items that they put on here, Red Rooster are on his boots. You got the little rooster riding on the side of his trunks, and of course the little rooster mohawk thing going on, which is kind of funny when you actually look at Terry Taylor. Like, I don't think he actually did his gimmick really well. Like, I believe that he actually thought he was supposed to be portray like an actual rooster, and not just have that kind of like a gimmick, this is kind of like what it's molded after, but he just made it he just got too in depth with the character, so I just thought that was kind of weird, but not a huge Terry Taylor, or more importantly, not a Red Rooster fan at all, but I've said it before. I don't care about the character. A great figure is a great figure. And, thank you, Random Treasures. Let's hope that this keeps the trend of solid figures going, because when you look at figures like, I don't know who, like Mil Mascaras and Mike Sharp, Ivan Putski, Ron Bass. Ron Bass is just a Bruno Sammartino repaint, so not a fan of those figures, but I was finally glad to get something that was actually worth my time and my money. So, again, it may have been my idea, maybe not, but I'd like to think that I was, at least somewhat responsible for coming up with that pose for that. So, you're welcome. I'm gonna stop being a smart aleck now. Get to the main point of the video, which of course is the AWA Remco tournament. So this is round 2, part 3. We do have 5 more matches here, and I did lay out the last match as well. So it looks like we only have 4 matches in the last video. So round 2 will only consist of 4 videos. So that should mean that round 3 would only be about 2 videos and so forth. But alright, so are there any guaranteed winners here? I'm just kind of looking at what I have laid out. I kind of think I have an idea of who I want to go with each match. Maybe 1 or 2 might be questionable, but it's going to be hard to get rid of some of these guys. And some of them are pretty evenly balanced. This first matchup is going to feature Macho Man squaring off against Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So, I've talked about the Jim Duggan figure. What I liked about this one is it gives you that Series 5 LJN, reminiscent to that action figure with the black and straight white. Plus, when you actually look at him, obviously a much younger version of Jim Duggan. This is his Rat Pack era days, right there with Ted DiBiase and Matt Bourne. So this one did not come with a 2x4. Maybe I could purchase one like a Hasbro version or something that I can include with this figure and really set it apart from a lot of the other figures. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he's up there with guys like, Luke and Butch of the Sheep Herders / Bushwhackers. A pre-WWF Ted DiBiase was amazing. Matt Osborne, it doesn't matter what he was in, any of the little territory wrestling or bigger promotions, WCCW or WCW or WWF, etc. But, AWA, of course, because everybody goes to AWA. He was just a psychotic wrestler regardless of where he went. So, maybe not the most comparable wrestler, but some of the other guys, yeah. Absolute grapplers in other territories. When you get to WWF, much more phased down tone. Your attitude and the way that you wrestle, the way that you relate to the fans, obviously has to be far different. And it doesn't matter if he's in Japan, if he's in London, England, or if he's stateside. He will always be one of the most well-known and beloved characters. He may have been going for like Intercontinental championships here and there, but he was probably never going to be the type of guy that would be belted. But there was one scene that kind of like broke my heart when I was a kid, and I remember that scene because I watched it a few months ago on YouTube, and so after Yokozuna had just crushed him, Jim Duggan, he had knocked over Yokozuna, and the matchup was, if you knock me off my feet, you're going to win the match type of deal. And that happened. Jim Duggan knocked him off his feet, and of course Yokozuna doesn't like losing, so he attacks him from behind, basically crushes him, jumps off the top turnbuckle and sits on his chest. Basically broke his sternum or whatnot. I don't think, again, I've said it before, I don't think that's kayfabe. I think that was an actual real life injury sustained. And he was given this speech, and it was like a few minute promo type of deal. I really wish I knew how to do inserts or something, because something like that inserted in a video like this talking about Hacksaw would be really important. But just a very beloved character. Now, Randy Savage, I don't like this one as much as the one that was eliminated in the first round. Now, there are some things that are more beneficial. For starters, I love the accessory with the shirt. The trunks, kind of LJN style, whereas the other version was more of like a Hasbro Series 1 style. And I like the head mold better on the other one, but still, a little bit younger. Randy Savage right here. Awesome figure. And, you know, I didn't even realize that this was actual clothing right here. I thought that was just like painted on. Just shows you how much I pay attention to the figures. This is a tough one because I do believe that both figures are relatively comparable to one another. Not that I think either one of them are like overly exceptional that you just can't lose. Like I said, they're on the same, they're on par with one another. But Randy Savage, come on. Literally one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of professional wrestling. A man who personified the elbow drop off the top rope. I mean, nobody did that better. There's very few, if any, Intercontinental champions who are as good as Macho Man. The only ones I could ever put in the same league as Macho Man is probably Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Nobody else, you know, Ultimate Warrior was one of my favorite wrestlers, but based on, you know, his attitude and, you know, some of the things that other guys that he worked with kind of talked about, you know, he wasn't that great of a wrestler, but to me, as a kid watching him, I didn't really know the difference. To me, he always looked amazing. But like I said, Randy Savage, lights out, one of the best members of professional wrestling ever, and I'm glad to see his figure move on to round 3. Is it a round 4 figure? God, I hope so. There are just certain characters that you want to see move as far through the tournament as possible. And having already lost both Undertaker figures, having lost Legion of Doom figures, who else are some of the greats? Just got rid of the Gagne Raider, Kurt Hennig last video. You know, some of my favorites are already, you know, gone. So I hope to have someone like Macho Man towards the end. All right, let's go with. This one was very fitting, and when I saw who the competitor was for this matchup, it brought a smile to my face because it makes sense based on reality, and it's Honky Tonk Man versus the Ultimate Warrior. And we already know Honky Tonk Man was Intercontinental champion for like 13 or 14 months. The longest tenured Intercontinental champion ever. And when he finally dropped the belt, he dropped the belt to Ultimate Warrior. And when Ultimate Warrior came in the ring, Honky Tonk Man couldn't even get his outfit off before Warrior just wailed on him, did his finisher, and pinned him within like the first minute or so. So it's kind of interesting that these two figures are going to square off against each other here. And he even has the suit to boot. So Honky Tonk Man, as much as I know that I used to watch Honky Tonk Man wrestle as a kid, it's one of those things where I guess he didn't make as much of an impact on me as I, you know, would once, as a lot of other characters would, like Hogan and Macho Man, etc., Bret Hart. Just kind of showing you some of the designs that are underneath the suit here. But Honky Tonk Man, he had a Hasbro figure that I absolutely loved as a kid. One that I had as a kid, one that I loved. Today, that Hasbro figure is still on my top 10 list among the best Hasbro action figures. And this figure, I don't know, between this one and the one where he's not in suit, it'd be really tough to choose which one I like more. They are both incredible pieces. Not only does he have an amazing head sculpt, but the accessory with the Intercontinental belt to boot, it's tough. When I acquired this Ultimate Warrior figure, I thought, you know, when I make my Remco tournament, there's about a 90% chance that this Ultimate Warrior figure wins my entire tournament. And then I kept buying more and more figures, and then, you know, I'm like, okay, maybe not. And then I kept buying and more figures, and ended up with like another Ultimate Warrior. And I thought, okay, maybe that one could win. And then I kept buying more. I'm like, dang. You know, I just kept, you know, because Russ, he had like these 10-day auctions. And, you know, every few days he put up a new figure for auction. And I'd bid on it. And I'd want to put them all together so I could just do one mass payment. and have them all shipped together. So basically, I'd pay for them maybe once a month. End up with like 15 figures. And I did that for a couple months or a few months. So, yeah, this is a really tough decision though, because I absolutely love both figures. I really want to say Honky Tonk Man. I really do. This is an incredible piece. But how do I say no to the Ultimate Warrior? And as an adult, learning about some of his backstage behavior, it's really affected my view of the Warrior as a man. But Mark Helwig, when he first came into WWF, even before then, there are certain guys like Legion of Doom, Sting, the Dingo Warrior, and that's who this is. I think that the Dingo Warrior would be best suited than Ultimate Warrior, and these guys were just bodybuilder type guys who really didn't have wrestling experience. Greg Valentine himself, once said that Legion of Doom was nothing more than a bunch of body slam guys. Sting and Warrior, nothing special out there either. Sting and Warrior, of course, were AWA tag team partners. Sting would move on to WCW, become the face of the franchise, and basically be one of the most important wrestlers of our generation. Ultimate Warrior moved on to WCW or WWF later on, and like guys like Yokozuna, I don't know, maybe a couple other guys, modern day wrestlers, Brock Lesnar, maybe. I didn't watch Brock Lesnar. I just know because you read about things. Who got an immediate push basically from the get-go. He just had the body type that Vince McMahon coveted. He had the energy. The man was a powerful talker. So, yeah, he got an immediate push, was just dominant. Became multiple-time Intercontinental and held the heavyweight title at the same time. Incredible. But certain things that he did, like, demand a pay increase, otherwise he wouldn't perform at a WrestleMania match or so forth. Or Bret Hart talked about how, kids, dying of cancer would want to get his autograph. And he'd be waiting outside his room for, like, hours. And Ultimate Warrior wouldn't even take the time out to come out and, sign an autograph, take a picture, anything like that. Where guys like, Savage, like Bret Hart and Hogan and basically anyone else, they would always set aside time for the kids. That was gut-wrenching to learn about. I think I will always love Ultimate Warrior based on my childhood feelings and, what I can remember and just watching him and all that. But as an adult, yeah, I've lost a lot of respect for the man. But be that as it may, two phenomenal figures. This is, again, one of the toughest decisions I'm probably going to make in this entire tournament. But I have to choose the Warrior. To me, it has to be. There's just no other choice. Guys like Warrior and Macho Man moving forward, I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but it's the best choice for me. Next matchup is going to feature another set of quality figures, which is going to be Jim Brunzell of the High Flyers taking on Billy Jack Haynes. So the only issue I ever had with the Billy Jack Haynes figure, and during this era, this might be exactly his look. But again, I never saw Billy Jack Haynes wrestle. It wasn't until I started collecting LJNs that I finally went back and watched some videos to kind of get a feel for him and everything. But I'm always looking at the Billy Jack Haynes from the LJN line, where he has the yellow trunks with green rim and whatnot. So when I see pure black, he could have worn that in real life. I really don't remember it. I do know that look, so that's what I kind of covet. And again, it's probably taking a head sculpt from an existing Remco, just painting him up a little bit with some facial hair. It's for Billy Jack Haynes. It looks like him. They got the tattoos on there beautifully. This is an exceptional figure. And coming out with the hat accessory, even if this figure doesn't win the tournament, this has got to be one of my favorite figures. I mean, just all around quality is just fantastic. Absolutely love it. But then you go against Jim Brunzell. Here is another issue that I have. I shouldn't bring it up because it really doesn't matter, but I don't have too many original figures in this tournament remaining after round one. And Jim Brunzell, as I said, if not a top 5, he's somewhere in the top 10 among original Remcos for being the best figure. And what I always talk about, one of the best accessories, trunks, incredible. Throw a little championship belt on here, fantastic. Obviously, Jim Brunzell, I didn't really know these names as a kid, but infamous for being a member of the Killer Bees in WWF. I know him better from there than anything from Remco or AWA days. Really don't know much anything about the High Flyers until I started collecting these guys and kind of learning about them. With that being said, is there anything too much that really separates one figure from the other? My gut is leaning me towards Billy Jack Haynes. This is another one of those decisions where there really isn't a wrong answer. These two figures could be potential finalists if the random drawing, came out a different way. But based on the random drawing and where they were placed in this tournament, you're going to lose a great one early. I just have to go with the original here. Yeah, like I said, there's maybe 5 original figures left in this tournament that I feel like have a legitimate chance of winning the whole thing. And about 3 of them, guys like the Barbarian, the Russian, and who else? The Barbarian, the Russian, and the Sheik. Sheik Al-Kassi. So those 3 guys, I consider them as part of my main original Remco line, but they're displayed with the originals, but they're all customs. Again, if you want to get those guys original, you're looking at north of $1,000 per figure, and no, I would never do that. Even if they were carded, I wouldn't do that. So, but again, because they are very well done and they do look just like the original, I keep them on the shelf with the original loose figures. Jim Brunzell, he had to move forward for me. It was the right decision. Next matchup is another interesting one, because it's going to be El Parka squaring off against the Sheik Al-Kassi. La Parka, I did a lot of research on this guy in the past when I first got this figure in, because I wanted to learn more about him. And with my memory problems, I can never remember everything I learned about certain guys. It's like, unless I actually watched them as a kid, it's really hard to sit there and hoping I could snap this chair into his hand, but I'm worried about breaking the plastic. So there was La Parka, there was LA Parka. Essentially, you had one man start off with, back in Mexican leagues, if that's right, Mexican leagues. When I think Mexican leagues, I'm thinking baseball, but you guys know what I mean. So, and he was a very influential wrestler, of course. And then he moved into the States, moved to like WCW and whatnot. But you also had LA Parka, who was a second La Parka, who replaced him, and he was La Parka for a little while until they kind of changed the name to LA Parka because they wanted to do some kind of separation. Unfortunately, that's really all I can remember. The suit itself, the actual action figure, is absolutely lights out. I bought, even though I didn't know anything about this guy, I bought him because I thought he looked absolutely amazing. And even before I realized he was an actual wrestler, I mean, this could have been like, I don't know, a He-Man bad guy or something, for all I know. I just thought it was amazing and just something I definitely wanted to include to my collection. And finding out that he was a real-life wrestler, and I could have another awesome custom to go with the wrestling collection, I absolutely couldn't pass on it. Just the overall accessory, the look of the figure, lights out, amazing. This should be a round 3 or 4 action figure, easy. At one point, I kind of looked at the figures after round 1. I'm like, could you imagine Chris Canyon's Mortis and La Parka being in the finals and having those two guys square off. Two absolutely amazing full body customs. He's squaring off against the Sheik. The Sheik, I know a little about only because of his WWF days. Again, he played General Adnan, or portrayed General Adnan in the WWF, where, you know, he was manager of Iron Sheik and Sergeant Slaughter. And WWF really utilized the heck out of him during the Gulf War because he had a close resemblance to Saddam Hussein. The head itself is, you know, it's a good looking figure, high quality, no doubt. The robe is fantastic. And the overall headscarf, again, bleeds in beautifully the entire figure. I already know that the Sheik is going to beat La Parka. I kind of had a feeling the second I, drew the names where I was going with this matchup. But I just didn't want to just go, Sheik, and then go down. No, I wanted to at least give La Parka a chance. A lot of times when I start talking about figures, I started looking them over and really appreciating certain aspects of the figure that I really didn't notice or really wasn't considering in the past. And I sometimes change my mind. So, yes, this La Parka had a fantastic shot of going very, very deep in the tournament. Unfortunately, he just ran into one of those guys who I classify as one of the best original Remcos. Matt Mania Series 5 is just so fulfilling with so many incredible pieces. And that includes the referees, as a matter of fact. So it's not just the wrestlers. And with the added accessories and everything, everything full out is just fantastic. So, El Cassi defeats LA Parka / La Parka. Alright, last matchup. I don't know. Again, I don't know where I'm going to go with this one. Original Stan Hansen squares off against the Iron Sheik. On first glance, Stan Hansen, with the accessories, with the overall look, again, I'm trying to think. So, guys like Barbarian, El Cassi, the Russian Borzukov, that's those three. The two high flyers, 5. The referees I'd put up there, 6 and 7, with both Curly Brown and Dick Worley. And then Crusher Blackwell and Stan Hansen I put up there, 8 and 9. And Carlos Colon, Abdullah the Butcher, 11. So there are a lot of really high quality original figures that I absolutely covet. And as much as I love this Iron Sheik figure, and I just lost his championship belt, if I could get this put back on there. Do I want to get rid of an original figure, again, at this early point of the tournament? Stan Hansen, I know he was like this, rope twirling, lasso guy up in WCW. I know the name very well. Not a huge, obviously never had a huge following for Stan Hansen. Iron Sheik, when you're talking about bad guys, he is the face of the bad guys of the 1980s. One of the biggest legends of AWA, and moving from AWA to WWF, absolutely incredible. The fact that WWF thought enough of him to not only warrant him multiple tag team belts with Nikolai Volkov, but to allow him to defeat Bob Backlund, who held the heavyweight title for a number of years, even if he was going to be defeated just a month later. That's fine. The fact that he was a heavyweight champion speaks volumes. And there's kind of a point where, during kayfabe days where, bad guys were never supposed to be seen with good guys, etc. And then you've got like one of the biggest baby faces ever in Hacksaw Jim Duggan kind of riding in a car, smoking pot with the Iron Sheik. And, that's kind of funny. I think they both lost their jobs at that point, but, obviously they were both rehired. It was a mistake. They're great people. And I don't know. I talked about this in the past, and I was curious about it. So, Iron Sheik is an Iranian wrestler, but during Gulf War, obviously, you have the U.S. and Iraq at war. And I'm trying to remember if Iron Sheik was portraying a Iraqi soldier or if he was still his same Iranian heritage or Iranian soldier type. Because obviously General Nunn as the manager, and of course Slaughter and Sheik fell under him, so I don't remember. But, and I've talked about it a lot. I don't think I need to bring it up again. But Iran and Iraq, they would never go side by side. They hate each other. Dang, I love this figure. This is such a fantastic piece. But I gotta choose Iron Sheik. I mean, to me, there are just way too many things about the Iron Sheik figure that just I gravitate towards over Stan Hansen. And one of those things, obviously, I don't know enough about Stan Hansen. I watched Iron Sheik a little as a kid. I remember his matches. Obviously, Best of Hulkamania or whatever it's called. That featured, all of Hulk's major wins. Against Macho Man and Andre the Giant, Iron Sheik, etc. The figure itself is absolutely incredible. And not only do you give him this amazing trunk with the little design, but the boots, as I've talked about, super sharp. Little elf shoes, I call them. Dual color. I mean, look at that. Everything is perfection. I mean, even the camel is so well drawn on there. I think I'm trying to remember how much I paid for this figure. It was either like a $75 figure or a $125 figure, so it was definitely way up there in price. But among all the customs, I think this is one that's probably worth them the most. Now, I know this figure, I once paid like $120, $125, $130 for. I know that much. This one was definitely super pricey. And I kind of had a feeling it would go up there. And Russ actually had the opportunity. He had to buy it now for like $70, but the starting bid was like $30. And I'm like, man, I know I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to place a bid on it instead of doing the buy it now. And I ended up paying twice as much for it as if I had just done the buy it now. So I was really disappointed about that. At the same time, I feel like, Russ has given me so many great figures, or I've been able to buy so many great figures from him that, I'm like, okay, if it helps him earn a little bit extra money and he's able to continue making these awesome figures that I can acquire from in the future, I at least got to take that into consideration and be grateful for that. So, once again, Iron Sheik is going to defeat Stan Hansen. The Sheik Al-Kassi defeated... It's nice I got two Sheik characters going back to back. Sheik Al-Kassi defeated La Parka. High Flyers, Jim Brunzell defeated Billy Jack Haynes. The Ultimate Warrior with Vest defeated the Jumpsuit Honky Tonk Man. And Macho Man defeated Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Alright, awesome. So, outside of talking about the new XOX figures, I do have one more video for round 2. And anything else coming up in the short term? I don't think so. But now I gotta find a spot for this guy. So I really didn't want to move like these guys out of the way. Oh, I never showed this one off, but I bought this guy a while back, and the reason I did it is because this is a Macho Man figure you should have. Not two arms straight up where you can't play with it. This is an actual playable Macho Man. And even with the poor custom job, I think this could be a tournament winner. Because the pose, as I said, makes a world of difference. Alright guys, that's going to complete round 2, part 3. I'm probably going to stay down here and make one more video today. And that way I have the whole round 2 in queue ready to go. Talk to you guys in the comments, and see you in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.